Hey guys, hope you're doing well, and let's get back to the topic of how perfectly competitive firms behave in a market when we reach an equilibrium. So in the previous video, we talked about what is equilibrium, equilibrium quantity, equilibrium price, and what it means in terms of consumers and producers to be in equilibrium. So make sure you're very thorough on that. Right? Equilibrium means that we are at a point where demand intersects supply curve, quantity demanded equals quantity supplied, and the price has reached the point where it's an equilibrium. Hopefully you also remember everything in relation to elasticity, right? What perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, both demand and supply curve mean, and then also what causes them to be more or less elastic. So we're going to take a step further in this video and talk about a couple of government policies like price ceilings and price floors and what impact it has in certain markets. So that's what we're going to concentrate on in this video. So before we get there, why do we like markets to be in equilibrium in perfect competition is because everything reaches what we refer to as an efficient outcome. If you let the market reach its own outcome, there will not be any surpluses and shortages, and that's what we like. All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about a couple of government policies which prevent us from reaching an equilibrium. So one thing throughout this video you should keep in mind is if there's nothing restricting buyers and sellers, we will always like to get to equilibrium, both consumers and producers. And the reasoning is, goes back to a very old book written by a very famous economist, Adam Smith, in A Wealth of Nations, saying that there's an invisible hand, and he was referring to the price, that guides a market to equilibrium. Nobody has to tell me how much I want to pay for a good. Nobody has to tell a producer how much they should sell for a good for. I base my decision on my willingness to buy. They base their decision on what their costs are. And we reach an equilibrium on our own. So that's what Adam Smith was referring to. So now when the government feels or some organization feels that the market outcome is not equitable, then they will try to make certain restrictions. And the two cases we look at are price ceilings and price floors, and we'll see what impact that has on our market. All right, so first let's look at price ceiling, and I'll do it graphically as well, and then we'll look at price floor, and then we'll conclude this video after that. So a price ceiling, and again, the word should make it, you should be able to guess what they mean, is the maximum amount of price that a producer can charge for a good. All right, so the first case we'll look at is price ceiling. Price ceiling puts a maximum amount that a producer can charge for a good. They can charge any amount below a price ceiling, but not above it. All right, so that's what it says. It limits how much they can raise the price to. It puts a hard limit on what producers can charge. Now, I look at the case where, I've told you the end result. If the price ceiling, whatever that price is below the equilibrium price, it's going to lead to shortages. So the best way to look at it is on a graph. So one example where we have price ceilings in certain cities is cities like New York City, San Francisco. They have price ceilings, which means the local government feels that the rent that the apartment owners are charging is too high, so they put a ceiling. They said you cannot charge any price above it. So that's a realistic example in some cities. So we know that if there is no price ceiling or price floor, we'll get to equilibrium. We know that everyone likes to be at a point where price is $1,000 and the amount of quantity that gets bought is whatever that equilibrium quantity is. So now if the government says you cannot charge a price more than 800, you can charge any price below it but not above 800. So now the producers are prevented from reaching the price of $1,000. Let's see what happens when a government imposes that restriction. We get to a point where now there are 75 apartments being supplied, but there are going to be 125 people who want apartments. So there are going to be more people who want apartments than there are apartments available. Now that sounds good, right? So government wants to protect people who are renting and they don't want them to pay more. But the consequence, when you understand economics, is that there are going to be more people that are looking for apartments than there are apartments available, leading to a shortage. All right, and then some of the consequences, the indirect consequences are it lowers the quality of apartments. Landowners, know that they can afford to not maintain the quality because there are more people looking than there are apartments available. So hopefully you understand what the point of price ceiling is, and then economically what the consequence is. Let me just give you one more point. If the government puts a price ceiling above the equilibrium price, let's say the government said the price ceiling is this amount, whatever that number is. Now they say that you cannot charge any price above it, you can charge any price below it, but not above. The reason this is meaningless is because we can get to equilibrium, right? Because it doesn't prevent us from going down, it just prevents us from going up. So it doesn't make sense to look at a price ceiling that's above equilibrium. We only look at a price ceiling that's below equilibrium because that's binding. All right, it constricts how much price that the producers can charge. All right, so now let's look at the other scenario. Let's look at a price floor. This is the opposite. This tells that there is going to be a minimum price that the producers can charge and the consumers can pay. So here they are trying to protect the producers by saying that you want to make sure that the producers get paid a certain amount. So it's illegal for the price to fall below a certain level. It sets a minimum price that they can charge. Now let's look at both above and below equilibrium. I've given you the answer that if the price is above equilibrium price, if the price floor is set to be above equilibrium price, there's going to be a surplus. So now let's look at the graph. All right, so again, I'll talk about the example in this scenario, but let's go through the graph first. If there is no price floor or price ceiling, we'll get to equilibrium, but now there's a price floor set above the equilibrium price. So if the price floor is set above equilibrium price, what that means is the price cannot fall below here. It can get any amount above it, but it cannot fall below. So now producers and consumers are prevented from reaching the equilibrium outcome, which is where we like to be. So when that happens, we know now the quantity demanded is going to be less than quantity supplied. So at this point, there's going to be more goods that get produced than there are consumers who want to buy the good because the price is higher. Again, we are prevented from reaching equilibrium. So just like the previous case, if we set a price floor below equilibrium, that means we can charge any price above it but not below. That's meaningless because we know that if there are no restrictions, we will end up here. So a price floor below equilibrium is not what we call binding. All right, so and then just to emphasize the point that if we are in equilibrium, there are going to be 100 units being produced and 100 units being consumed. As opposed to if we are prevented from reaching an equilibrium, sure, we are able to protect certain producers by saying you'll get a higher price, but there's going to be a lower amount that gets consumed and produced. So that's why we don't like price ceilings and price floors, because it creates artificial surpluses and shortages. Shortages in case of price ceiling, surplus in the case of price floor. So a realistic example of price floor is, historically in the agricultural sector, to protect the prices that farmers get paid, they would put price floors above equilibrium, and it always led to surpluses. So then what you ended up having in certain cases is the government would then go up and buy up the surplus without any point. All right, so that's not a very efficient way to run a market. All right, so hopefully you're clear with the concept of price floors and price ceilings. Again, theoretically, they're similar to what we talked about in the previous video about surpluses and shortages, but now we're looking at some government policies that lead to that outcome. So again, just to conclude the video, we know there's going to be a trade-off between equity and efficiency. We know the market outcome in a perfectly competitive market is efficient. That's the best we can get given the resources and what the consumers want. But sometimes the government feels the efficient outcome is not fair to certain parts of the groups within a country. So they try to make the situation more equitable, which sounds good, but the consequence, as you now know, is it leads to artificial surpluses and shortage. So understand why they do it, what the reasoning behind it is, and what the consequences are as well. So hopefully you're good in terms of what an equilibrium means in a perfectly competitive market, and now what certain government policies like price ceilings and price floors, how they impact the outcome. In the next video, we'll conclude this chapter.